Toby Perkins.
Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Speaker. Prior to coming into this place, I spent an early part of my career in the sales industry, selling in the IT sector. And I have to say, I just wish that at some point in my life I could have come across a customer with as much money as the government has, as willing to be so easily impressed as this government is, and as willing to give it to people and then defend the people who let them down as a supplier. I never came across a customer nearly as naive as what we have with the government. And occasionally you get a story that seems in itself to demonstrate a much wider point. And so it was today with the scoop revealed by Ed Conway of Sky News, that the government is paying, on a daily rate, £7,360 per day to the management consultants at Boston Consulting Group, who are in charge of Test and Trace, an equivalent to £1.5 million salary to individuals as a day rate, to preside over this shambolic site that is letting down all the people in my constituency and in so many others. Now, you won't find dedicated public servants being paid £7,500 a day. You won't find them on £1.5 million. But what you will find is a basic competence, a knowledge of their area, a desire to make sure that the systems work before they are implemented. And that is what we need right now in our system. And it is telling, I think, Mr Deputy Speaker, that in a debate of this importance, with every Member of Parliament, every backbench Member of Parliament being invited to contribute, just 3 Conservative MPs wanted to put their name on the list and say, I will go in and speak up for the government because I think the government's doing a good job. Because they know in their constituencies, people know what's happening. And they don't want it to be on their record that they were the ones speaking up for it. So they leave it to us to come here and expose the reality. You know, and that is what is happening. The Tory backbenches, 365 Tory MPs elected, where are they? Yeah. They're off in their offices hiding while people in my constituency are being let down. I accept that there's 3 people turned up. Thank you very much. I'm talking about the rest of them. In Chesterfield now, we all remember when Leicester first went into lockdown and everyone said, oh my God, the rate in Leicester, it's appalling. But the poor people in Leicester, remember what it's like. It was less than 100 per 100,000 then. I will just briefly.
Would you agree with my worry that the proportion of people being reached by Test and Trace has decreased over the last few weeks and is now at a similar proportion to first seen in the first week of this programme?
Well, yeah, I absolutely would, and I had an experience with that myself just recently. But the point I was about to make was that in Leicester they had a rate of 100 per 100,000 when they went into lockdown. In Chesterfield we have a rate of 143 per 100,000, and we're still in Tier 1. You know, so the scale as to how bad this has to be before the government are shocked is changing all the time. And I would just say finally that I recently was in self-isolation myself. I was in self-isolation because a friend had told me that he'd been diagnosed with coronavirus 4 days before Test and Trace got in touch with me. And the date that they had was 9 days after I came out of Test and Trace, after I came out of self-isolation. So the whole system just isn't working. And when you experience it yourself, you can see why the failure that we have is happening, Mr Deputy Speaker.